everyone, welcome back to the another session in Principles of Programming Language. We'll continue to know more about second unit data types concept. We started in the previous video and we get to know about what are the primitive data types, and we were seeing some primitive data types concerned to the languages which are taking primitive data types into consideration. And this video is purely about character and string data type. The second is about character and string data type. So now let's see about character and string data type. Now there are programming languages which accept character and string as the primitive, and there are programming languages which will not take character and string as primitive. With this statement, people can understand in detail that character can be also taken as a primitive data type, and this part I did not mention in the primitive data types. There is no word of character in the primitive if you see the last video. The reason why I did not include it is character is not the primitive data type concerned to many programming languages. That's what I did not mention there in the primitive. Now coming to the character and string data type. So here character string types are what? Values or sequences of characters, or else you can give a general definition. A character is what? A string is what? A collection of characters. A character is a single bit of data. String is a collection of character. When I say string is collection of character, again you may have a question, is string is a data type? Yes, there are languages which will take string as a data type. Now, I'll give a clarity here. Character string type can be primitive and can be non-primitive. The same point you can see in the design issue. Correct? Now, let's see about design issues. Design issues are what? Is it a primitive type or just a special kind of array? And should the length of strings to be static or dynamic? Now, we will be going to talk about these two design issues in detail. Let's talk about the first design issue, primitive or not primitive. Primitive in the sense what I discussed in the last video, the data type should be defined in its own form. That means, if I say it is character a data type, char should be a keyword to define in a programming language. Now I am taking char, ch is equal to a character. The languages which allows the user to give this kind of syntax, then that language is a primitive data type, or the language is using a primitive data type. Now, if you take the other example as string, Java basically uses string buffer class to do all kind of operations on strings. You can take even the example of C# and Ruby, even the Python. These are the languages where string is a primitive data type. String is a primitive one. The mean of primitive is what? String can be defined in its own form, that I can use string directly. Correct? Character also can be used as primitive in the languages where I can mention char directly. Now, character data type is a primitive in C and C++. Fine? String is a primitive data type in Java, in C#, Ruby and Python. So these are the languages which accept a string as a primitive. I did not mention string in C based languages, what I wrote here. C will not allow string to be a primitive data type, those in the languages. Then how can we do a string operations, or how can we define a string in C based languages? Now what we'll do is, as per the definition of character, character is a single bit and a string is what? Collection of characters. If character is being supported by C based languages, you can definitely take string into collection of characters. In turn, string may be not a primitive data type, but string operations can be done in C based languages using character data type. And that's what this point is written over here. There are languages which will take as primitive as non-primitive. So what are the languages? Primitive data type. You can also add one more point here, which is Snowball. Snowball is a programming language. Snowball basically stands for string-oriented symbolic language. Snowball is, the name itself it tells that it is a string-oriented language. As the way you might have heard about procedure-oriented, object-oriented, and here I am introducing a new programming language, string-oriented. Now, this language, Snowball, will accept the input in the form of strings. Now, string is a primitive data type in these set of languages. Character is a primitive data type in these set of languages. So, the first point we covered, correct? The second point. Second design issue is what? Should be the length of strings be static or dynamic? Now, we'll take some example to look after the scene. If I write, I'll take an example. Char ch of 10, char str string 1 of 10 is equal to apples. Right. Now here I have taken some instruction. So this instruction will tell you clearly that I have taken character as my data type and I initialized the value of 10 to a string. When the value is given at compile time, we used to say that the value is what? Static. When you say the value is static, you have to give 10 values over here. This 10 will tell you about the maximum size. There are languages which will take the length of the string as static and as dynamic, as limited dynamic. The languages which allows the user to define a data type in the form of string and the length of the string can be it is static. Static in the sense this. The example is this. You have to make the size of the string as fixed in the program itself. And you have the other one, dynamic and limited dynamic. So dynamic and limited dynamic is what? We'll take the help of descriptor. Descriptor is a value where it will get changes from program to program. If you are giving the size of 100 over here, but you are not defining the value into the program, you are asking the user to give the value of 100 at runtime. Now I'll show you with an example the same. Let's see that I have defined string 1 of 10 character data type, but I did not mention the value into it. I just wrote the size of it. Fine. Now second is character data type string 2 of 10. Here I did not give any value, but of what I have mentioned, I have given the size of it. That means the length of string is defined. The number of characters what I am going to give may be in between of this 10, 1 to 10. So I am fixing it, but I am not entering it. My size of the string can get vary from 1 to 10. Earlier in the example, size is fixed. Though I have given 10, it is fixed. Earlier, where I have mentioned it is static length, char str 1 of 10 is equal to apples. In the case of this, your memory is fixed with the value of apples. In the case of these two, I did not mention any value. Then how can I get the value? I am just reading it. So I am just using an instruction that scanf percentile yes string 1. So when you are writing this instruction in the program, now user is allowed to enter some value over here. Now the value should not exceed this 10 because you fixed already the size of the character. But the value what I am entering here, it can be AB. Yes, I can give AB. And I can give also apple and I can give some AB. So whatsoever you give here, all it will accept until and unless you are not exceeding the 10 characters. So this is what dynamic length of the string. And you also have limited dynamic. That is also there in the programming languages. The limited dynamic in the sense, you may not cross that I'll show you with an example. If I am going with the example that char S1 of 10 is equal to, I'll write neatly, char S1 of 10 is equal to the value which is apple. So this is what static, correct? And limited dynamic in the sense, you have still more chance to inside the other characters to reach 10. So this is what limited dynamic. And the programming languages which take all these three kind of things are, now let's see. You can see here the languages which support character and string type. Now, so static is what? Length of the string what is written in the programming language, and the programming languages which accept it is what? COBOL and Java. These are the programming languages which accept string with a static length. And the other one is limited dynamic length. So this is what it can accept it in the languages C and C++. In these languages, a special character is used to indicate the end of string characters. So when you wanted to end the character in the string, in the given string, you can end that with the null character. That's what we used to represent with the /0. So this is what limited dynamic length. And the third one is dynamic with no maximum. So as I specified that snowball as symbolically represents, it's a string oriented language, and it says about dynamic. You can take as many as you want. I'll show you an example for the snowball. You look at here. This is what snowball programming language. Here I did not mention any size. You didn't have any size specification over here. Whatsoever instructions I wrote earlier, that char str1 of 10 is equal to apples or something, there you might have seen the figure that 10 is indicated, right? But snowball is a language where it accepts a dynamic length, where I did not mention any kind of length of it. So this is the example for dynamic length. You can give as much characters as you wanted to enter into input. So this is about character and string types. Thank you all.